Yo, Wagwan YouTube, what it do? What it do? Shouts out to anybody watching this. This is part 2 of the influence of the moon. So, if you haven't watched part 1, go watch part 1 somewhere. Put it somewhere up there like that. But I make pretty long videos because I like to talk. I don't know. I be yapping. So the video had to be split up in 2 parts. So you don't be lost, go watch part 1. You know what I'm saying? And please like, share, and comment on the video so we can get them subscribers and I can get to a place where I can live stream and do some more stuff. You know what I mean? So I don't have to make these long videos. But if you do make it through my long videos and like you go from one video to the next, you're a real one. Shout out to you. But back to the video. So for some reason this clip got like this, the audio got corrupted, so I'm just re-recording this. This is me from the future, and what I was speaking on was a deity and mythical creature called the Bakunawa. The Bakunawa is a deity from Filipino folklore and mythology, and it is known to be a moon eater and cosmic destroyer. So essentially it symbolizes the eclipse. It's basically supposed to symbolize the eclipse. So it's symbolic for lunar chaos, because you know eclipses bring a lot of chaotic energy and primal hunger, as well as eclipse energy. So as far as totem wisdom, since it's a deity, you should use it more as an archetype to embody. So if you're using it as an archetype, it should help you with balancing your emotional and psychological cycles. There was something else, man. Oh, and when you focus on this, you naturally will maintain your inner balance. So that's basically the Bakunawa. I personally have like a curiosity about the Filipino culture. I wish to visit there one day. I didn't really know anything about their culture or mythology, so this is like the first introduction to it, and I think it's pretty interesting. There's also another deity that's like a moon goddess. I can't remember the name, but she is supposed to be the one that subdues the dragon. Peace. I got one more good way to end this off, an honorable mention, and probably like the worst thing on this entire list, just because of the type of impact that it can have on an individual. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I talk big on psychedelics, and like I encourage people to take them. But like, you know, obviously not all of these things are fucking like good for you. Like, not all of these things are something you should like be curious to take. You know what I'm saying? it's just like, for me, when it comes to like stuff like this, I don't see what would bring a person to want to consume it. But like when you in America, people in America do some very heathenistic and unconscious things for the sake of escaping. And when you have those type of intentions, you're only setting yourself up for failure. So let's talk about Datura. You know what I'm saying? If you never heard of Datura, Datura is a very interesting plant. Now, it's on the lunar spectrum because it only blooms at night. You know what I'm saying? It has these, it's a member of the nightshade family. So if that's also not obvious insight on it being connected to the moon, a member of the nightshade family. I got a fucking one of them white bugs on my. But it's a member of the nightshade family. And what's interesting about Datura is like it blooms during dusk. So like the flowers bloom at dusk. And it has these pure white flowers that glow in the night. And when it blooms, it gives off this very, very strong, sweet aroma. Very strong, very pungent. I've never smelt it before, but this is just the information that I found out about Datura. You know what I'm saying? And obviously, I know about this plant because I'm big on psychedelics. So, of course, I done came across it while I've done my research, because I read a lot of people's trip reports about their experiences with things. And Datura is one of those extreme psychedelics, bro. You know what I'm saying? For first and foremost, you could die taking this. The alkaloids or the chemicals that Datura has, it causes you to be delirious. You know what I mean? So when you're tripping, you're delirious, and you completely disassociated from reality, and like you experience hallucinations that's so strong that you can't distinguish what's real and what's an illusion. Like if you want to talk about real hallucinations, like this is it. Like, and like when I say real hallucinations, I mean like the extremely negative ones, like the ones that like I said, you have no control over it, and you can't distinguish what's real and fake. Like, this is what happens when you're on Datura. So like I said, it's a member of the nightshade family. It blooms at night. So it's a nocturnal plant. You know what I'm saying? So it gives off this aroma. It's very strong. Some people say it's intoxicating, like a narcotic. It gives off this aroma so it can attract pollinators. And those pollinators are nocturnal animals. Or creatures. And those creatures happen to be moths or, surprisingly, bats. These are their pollinators. So one interesting thing about Datura is like, ever since I found out about it, I've always had like this like even though I know how fucking dangerous it is, like I still want to know I just still have this compelled feeling to know more about it. And that's how like, when people describe the smell, like, that's how you can tell like it's connected to the moon. Because like I said, the moon is a feminine construct. So like, it's very alluring and attractive with the smell. You know what I mean? But once you get close, like, it's actually very poisonous and fatal for people who interact with the plant. Even if you don't ever take it, I feel like just being around it will affect your subconscious, and you'll probably have nightmares. You know what I'm saying? So one thing about Datura is like it has this immense sinister vibe to it. The people report the trips to feel like a hellish experience. The trips last for days, bro. So you could be tripping off this shit for 3 days straight, and the trips are hellish. The things that you see and experience while you're on them, like I say, it's full-blown hallucinations. So like, you're experiencing and seeing things that probably never happened, like, or from your perspective, whatever you're doing may seem like completely different from if somebody who was next to you who was sober actually seen what you was doing. Like, a lot of people report like doing some of the most abysmal type of thing, bro. Like taking off their clothes and running out naked and shit like that. Talking to walls and smoking fake cigarettes and shit like that. Crazy shit, bro. So another thing about it, like I said, it has a sinister vibe to it. Sinister, dark, very, very demonic. People report seeing dark spirits, demons while they on Datura. Yeah, the whole vibe is just super dark. Like I said, I don't know what would compel somebody to ever take Datura, bro. You know what I'm saying? But like I mentioned earlier, my fascination with it, even though I know I don't ever want to try this shit, I'm wise enough not to do that. But my fascination and attraction to it, is just those feminine qualities, just like the moon has. You know what I'm saying? Where when you see a beautiful woman, she's very attractive and alluring. But beneath the surface, on the surface that's what she is, but beneath the surface, she's manipulative, deceptive, and selfish. You know what I'm saying? So that's the tour, bro. You know what I mean? I in many ways think that the Datura is like a gateway to hell. Now there are indigenous cultures who used to use the Datura at very moderate levels, very safe doses. I don't think there's any such thing as a safe dose with the Datura, but indigenous people, they used to take it to induce visions, because you see visions and stuff like that, like full-blown hallucinations. So there's a right way to do it. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, I don't think it makes any sense for anybody to ever take it. But I have heard of people that take certain types of psychedelics that's probably like very chaotic for like some druggie, some motherfucker that just takes drugs and completely unconscious of what they taking. Of course they gonna have a bad experience, but like like I mentioned in my my psychedelic video, you know, if you practice this stuff in a, it's just like I mentioned with the giant squid totem. It's like when you venturing off into the unknown, you know what I'm saying? You approach these things with respect and reverence, you know what I'm saying? Not as in a way like, you know, not in a forceful way where you're like, where you're not acknowledging the interaction you having with whatever you're taking. You know what I'm saying? Because this thing is conscious and it's alive. It has a spirit. So the more respect and reverence you have for it, the more it'll respect you, return that respect. Because, you know, everything in life, in relationships, is all about reciprocity. So if you give it the right energy, bro, the experience you'll have out of it will actually be something very positive. But you know, the Torah, you know, I don't really want to know a safe way to take the Torah, bro, because like I said, it's fatal. So, you know, when people take them, the Torah has like these seed pods on them. They're spiked seed pods. If you ever, I'm trying to think of. I think it's either Zelda or Mario. One of those Nintendo games, bro. They have an enemy on there that's a Datura plant. But Datura has these seed pods, these spiked seed pods, and when you open the seed pod up, it's a bunch of seeds. And to trip off of it, you basically eat the seeds. If you eat the seeds, you'll trip. You know what I'm saying? And most of the people whose trip reports I've read, like, that's, you know, most of the time it's like some naive person. They you know, they into the psychedelics and stuff. Somebody gives them to them and they're like, yeah, if you take them, you'll trip, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like some stupid shit like that. And 9 times out of 10, they'll take way too many. You know what I mean? They'll take way too many, and like they're on a fucking, you know, the trip of their life. When you take a lot of the seed pods, that's literally how you can die from this shit, because it dehydrates you. Like people experience extreme dehydration. Like they say, like people say that, like, if they try to drink water, you know what I mean, they'll drink loads of water and it still feel like you know, it still feel like they're parched and their throat is dry and stuff. And, you know, people, like I said, they feel like they smoking cigarettes that don't exist and stuff like that. Is really weird shit, bro. But usually when people take this, they probably go into a psychosis. You know what I'm saying? So most people who take that stuff, at the end of it, they go into a psychosis, and they are psychologically scarred for the rest of their life. You know what I'm saying? Like after that trip, they're never the same again. And you know, that's unfortunate, bro. You know what I'm saying? Cause like, you know, it, like I said, it's all manifested from your desire to do something in a vain and unconscious way. You know what I'm saying? And you know, that's where it led you to the Torah. Like it was, your desire for that shit was that fucking irresponsible that you encountered. Yeah, that's the Torah, man. You know what I mean? like I said, Datura can be literally a gateway to hell. Cause if you seeing demonic spirits and shit like that, I don't know how else to describe that other than hell, bro. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how else to describe that. And that goes into the last thing I'm gonna talk about, which is how the lunar spectrum, once you reach the end of it, what happens? Well, here's my theory. So when you reach the end of this spectrum or road, you know what I mean? Like I said, when you venture off too far on one side of the spectrum, you know, it tips like a seesaw. It dips, and now you're unbalanced. You know what I'm saying? Now you're in a state of imbalance. And, you know, once you reach the end, the only thing that could happen is you tip over, and as you keep tipping over, the spectrum flips, and you land yourself in a new reality. So if y'all ever watched the movie Pirates in the Caribbean, I think it's Dead Man's Chest. Yeah, that makes sense if it was Dead Man's Chest. But I think in that movie, Davy Jones, his ship, if I remember correctly, like the way he traveled on his ship was like when he was on the ocean. As they transition from night to day, like he would literally go into the ocean. Oh my god, bro, stop. But the ship would literally go underneath the ocean and flip out on the other side. And once they flipped out on the other side, it was nighttime. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, once you reach the end of a spectrum, things flip and you are descended into a new reality. Now, what's in this new reality? Basically, a deeper version of what you were in previously. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I've heard from certain intellectuals that the moon is intrinsically connected to Saturn. You know what I'm saying? Y'all already know what's connected to Saturn, bro. A whole bunch of restrictive, devilish things. So, like, the moon is always looked at as like a space of in between. So if the moon, the lunar spectrum is a bridge from the surface to the underworld, then when you reach the apex of it, you know what I'm saying? I can only imagine that what's at the end of that spectrum is hell. And you know, the best representation of hell is Saturn. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, like, another thing I've heard during my time is that Saturn used to be our solar system's main star, or the main sun. So, if that's true, then it would make sense for Saturn to be like a descended version of our current star. So if it's stepped down being the main primary star of our solar system, then that would represent it dying. So now this sun exists in the underworld, right? So if Saturn is a past version of our current star, then you know it should be its polar opposite, right? So if we have a sun on the surface, then like I said, like Saturn is the sun of the underworld, and in the middle is the moon that bridges the pathway from the surface to the underworld. You know what I'm saying? Which also give context as to why so many things that you see on the lunar spectrum look so demonic and monstrous, is because the things that the realm is coming from is hell, is the Saturnarian realm. You know what I'm saying? So, just some theory, just me just thinking outside the box based off of what I'm aware of. Me putting things together. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, like a spectrum is a pathway, a bridge. You know what I mean? No matter if you're talking about the sun, the moon, or Saturn. You know what I'm saying? It's a spectrum. So like there's an abundance of it and there's a minimal amount of it. And once you reach the abundance, you're reaching the end of the spectrum. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? And the whole purpose of knowing all these things is to maintain balance, bro. That's it. You know what I'm saying? While you on your path exploring and, learning deeper parts of yourself. You know what I'm saying? Once you start seeing signs, because like, when it comes to like deep exploration of self, you know what I'm saying? When you seeing deities, like say you on a mushroom trip, and a very deep one, and you start seeing deities and stuff like this, and you're wondering in your mind, like, what does this mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, these are signs, bro. These are signs for where you are on the spectrum of life. You know what I'm saying? So like, you see these deities and they come to you because you're reaching a certain part of yourself. You know what I'm saying? In the spectrum of life. So, you know what I mean? That should help you interpret what you're experiencing. Because a lot of people, when they take psychedelics, bro, they come back from the experience and they don't know how to really understand like what happened, like what it mean, and you know what I mean? It usually take them a long time before they can realize exactly what it means. But knowing these things, it can help make this process a lot easier. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's about it, bro. I think I covered everything about the moon. I don't think I covered it exactly how I wanted it, but this is going to have to be good enough. You know what I'm saying? I'm not finna do this over and over again. You know what I'm saying? Can't be perfect, man. You know what I'm saying? I can't be perfect. You know what I'm saying? That's what makes me unique. So, we're gonna make some more interesting videos like this, where we like analyze things and give context on what it means. Just so you can see the connection between like everything in life. You know what I mean? For the people who are oblivious, does you justice to be aware. Don't have to be aware of everything based off us being here on earth. We should just enjoy this earthly experience, but you know what I mean, have enough awareness to know how to navigate. That's it, man. That's all it is. So I hope y'all take care of y'allself. I don't have no amazing quote off the top of my head. So hopefully I gave y'all some good context and perspective about the influence of the moon. I'm definitely gonna try to learn more astrology, bro. Definitely. It's definitely gonna be very useful in the future. You know, like one thing I've definitely been learning how to do is how to keep things simple. You know what I'm saying? And when it comes to stuff like astrology, you can get very complicated and make it very difficult for you to completely grasp. But all you need to know and learn about is simple things. Just like this video. We're only focusing on the moon and what the moon represents. And, you know, the astrology is all about having awareness and knowing like how these things, like when these things like interact with each other, what can manifest from that, you know what I mean, as far as life scenarios and events. So, you know, you take your time with this stuff. You ain't got to learn everything all at once. You know what I'm saying? Most of the time when it comes to learning things, it's all about just gaining experience. Like, you know, and gaining experience with something is literally you just absorbing information about it over time. You don't have to know everything all at once. You don't have to obsess about it and extensively research it just so you can know. Because that's how you overwhelm yourself and you don't really retain the information like that for real. So, yeah. I wish everybody well, man. And may you pursue your passions. Hopefully this eclipse, hopefully you in alignment with the theme of this eclipse, which is to let go of something that no longer serves you, bro. Something that you know you have no business perpetuating anymore, no matter what it is. Leave it in the past and move on. And watch how life shows up for you. Watch how the universe supports you. And to that, I say goodbye.